What I'm trying to do now is explain how I lay out the faces of the seats, the part that goes down into the hull, not the part you set on. What I haven't showed yet is that I put a slight bevel. I think I did in one of the videos, but you really can't see them because they're so slight. But there is a bevel along the edge that lets the plywood lean up against it, have just a little bit more of a glue edge when you epoxy them together. So what I'm going to show you is sort of the way I do it. I mean, old-time boat builders are going to talk about using their magic sticks and all these things to find the various points in an arc on a curved surface. But this is the method I use with tools that I have available. So we'll get started on this. Okay, what I start with is I take my sliding square here and I set it down to where I think is going to be the actual crease in the hull seam, the chine. So I set that mark and then I check it on the other side. What I do at the same time that I set this is I make another arc. I check it this way. I draw a line. I do this on both sides. Then I measure the leading edge distance from here and compare it with the other side. If both sides are the same, and if I would lucked out in this boat they were, then that is one of my angle points. I do the same thing again over here, check it on the other side, make my other mark, measure that off. Remember, you're on the leading side, this side, not that side. Mark that. Check it with the other side, I'm good. So then I know I have these distances out and down. Remember, out and down for both. I've got a more severe bevel here and these things just don't want to set on it. So I've got these two measurements known vertically. I have these two measurements known this direction. Then once I know that I've got the measurements, that I've used my big dividers to find the full width across the front of the 2x2. I've used sliding squares to find the distance down and out from the ends on those. Then I take some big cardboard I get from Edensaw when I get my marine grade plywoods, lay it down on the floor and start marking it out. So what I end up with is a piece of cardboard with a center line. I've got my vertical lines that I measured off from the edges with. I know it's that depth to the down here to the chine. The same with the second one. They're equal distance on both sides. I take my handy dandy scissors here and do some fine trimming, and I get my template to fit into the hull. A little mark, or a little bit of trim here and there, some rounding on the corners, and then I've got my template is ready to transfer. Okay, then I take my measurements that I got off the cardboard, I transfer them over to plywood. I also add a couple horizontal lines to make certain that I'm as I said before, I may have a couple gaps along in here. Just tighten the corners. Nothing really along this side. Pretty tight. The only place I've got a gap is down here on both sides, and when I lay a straight edge across this spot, this panel has got a little bit of arc to it since I've put it all together. Because the panels are curving in so much up and out, they will take on a little bit of curve sometimes. So if I laid a straight edge across there, it would show me that there was a curve. So this amount of gap is nothing that Easy Fill it can't fill. Even Gel Magic would be able to jump over that and leave you a nice jump stitch. So we'll get to that later. We'll come back to this again, and I will do another one of the seat panels. I got to re-rig up all my grip equipment and the tripod area to get a good view of it. But then we'll do a on the ground layout to give you a little better idea of what I'm doing when I take the measurements with the sliding scales, adjustable squares, and lay this out. Make it a little more coherent as to what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go again on doing this on the aft seat. I've got it set up, both of them set up for these positions where I can kind of feel on the other side and put the seam between the two fingers to give you a better idea of where it's at. I know that point. I can put a little mark in here right now. Calm down, you rascal. Put that mark in there. Go to the other one. Put a mark. Cut that. Now remember, on this one we're marking, since this is the aft side of the bow seat, we're marking on the aft, the longest part on this one. Okay, I've come and taken my measurements on this side, and I'm within 1/8 of an inch. I will adjust these when I go to the floor. I also know the out distance, and then the down measurement that I have to go is 5 3/8. And 10 1/8 on the long one. So we'll go to the floor next. After I've measured the overall width. Okay, I brought out my 5-foot ruler to lay out my my baseline, straight baseline. Then I brought it back over to my end point. I know that it was 44 3/4 when I measured the distance with my calipers, and so I'm setting my half center line mark at 22 7/16. And so then you get to come down for the center line mark. My depth at the center line is 12 5/8. Mark that off. I had a line 3.5 over from the edge, and a line 10 3/8 over from the edge for the two side panels on the, I guess this would be the port side. And on the starboard side it was off a little bit. Measurements were at 3 3/8 and 10 1/4, but it's close enough that I'm not going to worry about it. So I've got all of these lines down, so now all I have to do is transfer those distances that I took for the depths and then measure them off on my lines, making sure that we're still on our baseline here. Okay, I've got those depths, and all I have to do now is mark in the cross points, and that gives me the outline for, well, they don't slide, the outline for that part of the hull. So now all I got to do is mark this other side and then cut it out. And with my measurements and my build plans, you'd lay out the on pram, the bow and the stern panels this same way, and in the transom on all the other boats. Okay, I've got it installed now. A little bit more gap over here than what I want, but that's no problem. I'll adjust the, what I normally will do is take some short pieces of cardboard and then tape them to this edge, cut them down on the ends so that they'll fit in, and then I can tape these in place, and then I'll use that as my my true edge when I transfer to the plywood. So this just gives you an idea of all the steps that you can use in order to make the bulkheads. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the boat, and then we'll come back and we'll put them in place with some gel magic and some easy fillet